A Boston Bruins prospect is set to take a major leap this year after receiving some very good news heading into next season. We're going to be breaking that down, as well as going over a recent Athletic article, breaking down this front office and the confidence that fans and NHL fans alike have in this team. And let's just say it's not very good. We're going to break that down as well here at the end of this video. Before we do jump into all of the news that we have here today, though, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We know just over 60% of you guys watching right now have not done so already, and we're very close to the season beginning, and you want to miss what we have leading up to that time with the Bruins suspected to make a trade. And I'm going to be breaking down everything that happens with this team over that time, but as of right now, we need to jump straight into what we have. And this is some very good news coming out of Boston College, and as we know, we're going to be keeping some very close eyes on this team heading into this season, with now 6 prospects from the Boston Bruins on this roster. And heading into this year, we have a new one as captain, and right here from Boston College Men's Hockey, we're excited to announce that Luke Gustafsson, Brady Berard, and Bruins prospect 7th overall pick in 2021, Andre Gasseau, will be our captains for the 25-26 season. Now, obviously, this is a very big jump from him, and very deserved at that. Spending 2 years, or 3 years already, I should say, actually, with Boston College, heading into his 4th, and being on the older side of things, many Bruins fans, and just, people alike, are kind of looking over him compared to the prospects. And fair enough, that's rightfully so, especially how much we've garnered over the last year or so. But Andre Gasseau is definitely someone that you do not want to look over as deep as some other prospects. Now, heading into this, as Mark Divers said, this came from April 4th. There was a few options for him regarding last season, whether or not, or heading into this season, I should say, whether or not he wanted to jump over to the Bruins level this year, to the pro level, or stay another year in Boston College. And he could have signed his ELC, but returned to Boston, and he's going to spend his senior year as a captain. And Mark Divers was spot on here going into this, and was certainly becoming the captain here among other names. And we're looking at Andre Gasseau, as a player who is not necessarily a long shot, but someone that could sneakily fit into this Bruins roster very well. And I'm going to kind of go over why here now in a minute, but Andre Gasseau this year, and especially over the last few seasons, has been a very solid player for the Boston College team, and especially going over his consistency. That's one thing that I think you really can't ask for more. 36 games in 2 seasons, 40-1, 30, 29, 29 on points, and has really just taken a major leap from there. Has become more physical, become a bigger player. I mean, 6'4", 210. That's a sizable kid playing forward there on this team, and especially as a center, what the Bruins are looking for, they may have found one internally that will fit the bill exactly as what the Bruins are looking for via trade or free agency. So I think Andre Gasseau, especially kind of looking at his stats, looking at everything else, and also from LA, which is kind of weird for some hockey players. Normally you don't normally see a lot of players coming out of LA. I think he has some serious potential this year once again, and even more to take that next leap, going from, 29, 30 points up to, I would even argue, 35, 40, which is quite the big jump there. And especially being now one of the older players on this team, if not the oldest, I don't know the age of everybody there, but he certainly is going to be taking a much more important role with this team, as his next step is going to be at the pro level. So kind of going into this as well, and why he's so important, and once again, the 6 players that are currently going to be on this Boston College roster, and 2 of which, at least, I would even argue probably 4 or 5, let's just say all of them, to make it easier for ourselves, are going to be some big important people, players, prospects for this Boston Bruins team. Going into this year's draft, of course, James Hagens, William Moore, both from Boston College, the 1st and 2nd round pick. Dean Letourneau, 1st round pick last year. Christian Kostadinski and Andre Gasseau, and a little bit earlier throughout their drafts in 21-22, and Oscar Jelvik also in 2021. So having these players all play together was going to be a very big part for this Bruins team, as you're going to have some chemistry already running through that team, and going into the pro level, you're going to see a lot of these players really have the success there. And you're going to take Andre Gasseau as some sort of a leader behind all of these guys, being one of the oldest here, and going into a much more revamped Bruins team, I guess we could say, over the next few years. We're going to be seeing a lot of different faces, and we're going to be seeing quite a few of these guys next year at the earliest. And we can say Oscar Jelvik, Andre Gasseau will likely be over here coming into this upcoming season when the college season is over, and it is going to be a little bit earlier. We're going to see them. We're likely going to see James Hagens. Now, I don't want to dive too much into that, because of this is going to be a very exciting season to watch both the Bruins and Boston College, but this is going to be a very interesting decision to kind of see what happens from that change of level from college to the NHL, AHL, whatever happens over these next few seasons, especially with these 6 players here, knowing the chemistry that they're already going to build. And we know the Bruins like their Boston College players, but I think this is just another step into a very interesting development for this team and also heading into the Boston Bruins. So let me know what you think about that. Obviously, I think this is very exciting to see, and very big congratulations to Andre Gasseau here for being named captain. But heading into this year, we're going to be seeing a lot of different faces, a lot of different names, and everything like that. But over these next few couple years, the management is going to be making some very big decisions. And from The Athletic, they've recently came out with an article going over all 32 teams and having a vote on how much they trust their, kind of production going forward, I guess we could say, the front office, everything, how much this team is going to have an impact on what the future of the Bruins are going to look like. And the Boston Bruins were ranked 30th in this one, only in front of, the Nashville Predators and Buffalo Sabres, 2 of which teams are, really seem to be stuck in the mud for quite some time. But the Boston Bruins here, being at 30, last year ranked at 14th, you can see the drop-off in just about every single category here. The public and the fan base seem to be pretty aligned with everything. I think everybody knows the standpoint that the Bruins are in, and Bruins fans, of course, we know that we like to be a little bit harder on our management and everything when we do get closer and closer to, taking a look at this kind of stuff. But over these last few years, there's been a lot of really things pointing and leading up to how this chart comes to. And the article continues on and going, and we're going to jump into a few quotes here from The Athletic, but as you can see there, one of the things that was not just necessarily the lowest, but actually one of the highest for this Bruins team is free agency. And, that's where we really started to see a lot of questions being raised, especially starting last year with acquiring Elias Lindholm, Nikita Zadorov, and you see this. Curious choices on the UFA signings this year, lots of bottom 6, but the team is lacking top 6 talent. Elias Lindholm's contract does not look like it can age well, and the same can be said about Tanner Jeannot. Tough pill to swallow after setting records a few years ago, and, absolutely right. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and you're seeing the Athletic staff come out and really point out, I feel like, the obvious here for us in this instance, going into it as well. You see the cap management. D+, fair enough. This team is not necessarily up against the cap, but they don't have too much room to be able to make a few more moves. They have a few players that we're going to be seeing ship out over the next couple of years. Roster building at a D, I think it could be a little bit higher. With what they have, they don't have much. But at this point, there's options that they can do to make some moves. And going from, vision, that's kind of getting a bit better. Everything seems to be getting a little bit better. But the trust in Don Sweeney and Cam Neely just doesn't seem to be something that a lot of people are really comfortable saying over these next couple years. And I'm in the same boat. I think that they certainly can do a good, but will they actually, I think, is the main question. And one more thing I want to kind of point out here. I'm not going to read through this. If you did want to, be sure to pause, give it a look. But really talking about both overpaying for Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov due to not having too much action last year or feeling the pressure to overpay. And the same can go with Tanner Jeannot, which was a very strange contract. Still pointing out the fact that the free agent side of things over the last few years for the Bruins have been a very interesting one. I'm not necessarily saying negative, but I'm not saying positive either. I think we can see the positive in Elias Lindholm and Zadorov. We saw that in the second half of last year for Zadorov. I would say the last couple weeks for Lindholm of that last season. But going into this, they're going to have to take a major step up if they actually want to be considered worth their contracts. And continuing on, there's another part of this article that I wanted to touch on. The last 2 offseason free agency signings have been very disappointing. I can see the desperation leading to an overpay with Lindholm, but how many tough guys do we need when Pastrnak is only sure bet to score 25 goals? I think this is a bit extreme. 25 goals, still a little bit low, but we know that David Pastrnak is a player who can stand up for himself, but you don't want to have him to. So the Bruins are making some good decisions here, but I do understand the point where they're coming out, how many do we actually need? So I just want to touch a little bit on that because I want to get your guys' opinion in the comments below. And once again, before we do finish it, I'll pull up this and you can kind of take a look at it, pause, let me know what you think about this in the comments below, what you would grade, kind of, not necessarily each, but if you think there's anything wrong here on this list. And I'm going to read the comments and kind of go over this. I'm curious to see, but we had a lot of news today, for kind of a dog day as a summer, but we're going to be having a lot more over the next couple days and weeks as the Bruins get closer and closer to the start of the season with moves being made before we commence the season. So I'll be covering it all, but that's all I got for this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.